From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, July 22nd, 2024. I apologize for my absence the last couple of weeks. I was on vacation 2 weeks ago, and then last Monday, July 15th, we had a really strong, severe storm sweep through where I live here in the Midwest. Parts of Iowa and Illinois knocked me completely offline, had no power, water coming in the basement. My neighborhood was absolutely just trashed with trees laying on houses and cars. So a bit of an unplanned absence there carrying on into the week after vacation there, but we're ready to get rolling here. I know a lot of you have been cooking under a lot of heat here that has crept in over the last week or two, and you're probably curious about where this is all going. Now, your 10-day takeaways here, we'll talk about precipitation riding up and over the ridge that is in place here. What's keeping it pretty hot here is also going to deflect much of the heavier storm systems or heavier precipitation opportunities north and east of the Prairie proper, at least north of Highway 16 until you get into southern portions of Manitoba. With that, of course, an elevated fire risk in the extreme category there from central and southern Alberta into southern Saskatchewan. And those hot temperatures stick around through the end of the week. We've got some relief on the horizon, though, as we get toward the weekend early next week. Now, looking at the last 7 days of precipitation, this tells the story here. This is what we've got going forward. Really very isolated opportunities for precipitation. These pop-up summertime thunderstorms, again, a little bit more in the way of organized precipitation in southern Manitoba over the last 7 days, some of that in the last 24 hours. And that's where we'll kind of see those opportunities being the heaviest over the next 7 days or so until you get back into portions of northwest Alberta into the Peace River, Grand Prairie area. Looking at the the satellite picture here, infrared satellite on Monday morning. An upper level low here across the Pacific Ocean, high pressure over the Prairie right now, though. So hot and dry across the region. We sometimes get these, thunderstorm clusters riding up and over the top of the ridge. That's what we've got here, pushing out of southern Manitoba. And we'll see that at times over the next 7 to 10 days. So looking at the radar here, Monday morning, we saw those storms push through Winnipeg over the last 6 to 10 hours, moving south out of Manitoba and into northern Minnesota right now. And then the only other cluster of storms over here towards Fort St. John, west of the Grand Prairie area, just north of Peace River. Now looking at those temperatures here Monday morning on the warm side, anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees in most areas here as we get the day started. This is 6 a.m. here on the 22nd. And just broadly looking at the next 10 days, again, precipitation on the dry side across much of the Prairie. You got some opportunities for more in the way of shower and storm clusters in the far east and in the far north and west. But much of the Prairie on the dry side over the next 10 days, much of the Prairie on the hot side over the next 10 days. There will be some opportunities for relief coming, again, as we talked about, getting into the weekend and early next week. But by and large, a hotter pattern in place across the Prairie. So we talked about that fire risk. This really holds true through much of the week. A lot of Alberta, much of southern Saskatchewan, riding that, very high to extreme fire weather risk line there with the hot and dry conditions across the region, at times a bit on the summer breezy side. Dangerous fire conditions, so be smart about it. Don't park that machinery on top of combustibles, dry grass. Let's really try to not do activities that involve open flames as well this week. Just really bad fire weather conditions. Thanks to the ridge in place across the region. So again, troughing to the west, troughing to the east, ridge overhead, that keeps us hot and dry across the Prairie. Now, where's this all going? We'll start to animate this. I want to let you know I'm having an issue with one of the graphic sites I typically use. So some different views here, not my favorite, but we'll get through it here and get this little update kind of conveyed to you. So pausing it, taking it through the early part of this week, this trough will eventually make its way in. It's going to take until the end of the week, getting in towards, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, before it really does. So we have another 4 to 5 days under this ridge. It's going to allow that heat to stick around, keeping precipitation really sparse until we get toward the end of the week. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll get a little bit better of a chance for some organized precipitation in some parts of the Prairie. We'll also get a little bit of a relief from the current round of heat across the region. This is not going to be a whole-scale pattern shift, but it will at least kind of give us a pause in the really extreme heat that we're seeing across the region. Those mid-30s and higher temperatures will at least come to a pause for a time. Now here's what's going on with the winds at 500 millibars. Again, the winds coming around the base of that trough quite strong, but then they come up and over the top of the ridge, and that's where you get that really just quiet, disorganized flow, nothing to really force organized storms, and we allow that heat to really build across the region. It's as the flow comes up over the top of the ridge We at times get those ridge-riding thunderstorm clusters. That's why the precipitation chances over the next 4 to 5 days are highest in southern Manitoba. And then as you get closer to the impacts of this trough in the Grand Prairie, Peace River area, right in between hot and dry. Now, as we animate this, again, you see the trough start to make its way in as we get toward the end of the week. See those stronger upper-level winds start to feed into the region. That'll bring in slightly elevated chances for precipitation late week and bring in some cooler temperatures as well. Now, here's where we can see the precipitation chances over the next 5 to 7 days. Again, over the next couple, this is your Monday and Tuesday. Storms exiting southern Manitoba. You're going to be mostly dry over the next couple of days. And it's where we're closer to that upper-level trough in the Peace River, Grand Prairie area, where you can see some showers and storms over the next 48 hours. Everywhere else, pretty dry unless you're talking about a pop-up shower or storm. Peace River, Grand Prairie, you keep the precipitation chances going through midweek, Wednesday and Thursday. And then it's as we get into the later part of the week, it's not much, but there will be a frontal boundary that kind of extends back across the prairie. Could kick off a couple of rounds of showers and storms, likely going to be more miss than hit, and also could have the potential for some severe weather with that as well. So really kind of your classic summertime frontal passage. Not a lot in the way of, widespread heavy precipitation. Just going to bring in a chance for some showers and storms, and unfortunately maybe some severe weather with that. Now here's where we can look at those temperatures, looking at temperature anomalies across the region. Starting off with a lot of heat, especially in the west. Alberta, you are really cooking early this week. Portions of southern Manitoba, you too. A little cooler as you make your way toward the east. Now, as we get into Wednesday, this is now Thursday, we're really starting to bake. As that trough makes its way in, it will pull in some warmer temperatures. So unfortunately, midweek, some areas going to be hotter even than they are right now before we get some of that relief to pull in late week. You see it right here as we get into kind of Saturday, Sunday. Again, kind of knocking it back closer to normal. Maybe a couple areas here slipping a few degrees cooler than normal. But again, this is not a big pattern shift, just some relief from the extreme heat across the region right now. Now, your next week of precipitation, broadly looking here at the European AI forecast system, again, here's the pattern. Dry across a lot of the prairie. South of Highway 16, you are on the drier side. Any precipitation is going to be from these hit or miss shower and thunderstorms. Just not looking at much in the way of organized, big shower or thunderstorm clusters moving through, at least not over the next 7 days. Now, off to the north and west, Peace River, Grand Prairie, that's where you're going to feel the influence from that upper level trough. So you could see some precipitation. That's good news, over the next 7 days, talking about maybe 1 to 2 inches, getting into that, 30 to 60 millimeter range. And then as you make your way off to the east, maybe a couple of shower and storm clusters here making their way through the Winnipeg to Brandon area in southern Manitoba. Talking about mostly, variable precipitation here under an inch in that area. So dry across much of the prairie, hit or miss shower and thunderstorm activity until you get far northwest, Peace River, Grand Prairie, until you get further to the south and to the east, Winnipeg and Brandon area. Now let's look at those high temperatures. Again, a bit of a different view here, and I promise I'll pivot off to the west for you in BC, Grand Prairie, Peace River as well. But your high temperatures today, Monday, July 22nd, mid-30s in southern Alberta, mid to upper 20s in southern Manitoba. Here's your Tuesday highs. Again, a little bit warmer as we get toward midweek. Wednesday, this is Thursday, those highs, 38 to 39, maybe 40 degrees in some areas Celsius, getting toward the 30-degree mark in southern Manitoba as we get to Thursday. Again, this in the advance of the coming front, you can see it starting to cut its way through. I'll change over to blue right there. But in advance, with the area of low pressure kind of off to the north, my colors are all over the place here. We'll do our proper red area of low pressure, but the flow around that comes out of the south in advance. So before we cool down, with the northwesterly flow on the backside, we have to warm up a little bit more. Unfortunately, that's just the way that it goes. Your highs Friday, starting to see some of that cooler air filter in. It finally does so as we get into the weekend. Saturday, a bit cooler. We're still talking upper 20s, some areas maybe around 30 degrees, a little bit less humid, just a little bit less hot across the region. Now, jumping back to the west, same thing, your Monday highs. Tuesday, this would be Wednesday. We're now starting to feel the influence from the next trough coming in, a lot more in the way of precipitation across the region, a lot more in the way of cooler temperatures. Peace River, Grand Prairie. Edmonton, you'll start to feel the cooler temperatures here as we get into Thursday and Friday. Calgary, the front sweeps through on Friday, and then that front makes its way through the rest of the region, southern Alberta, as we get into Saturday and Sunday. So we've got a hot, mostly dry next 5 to 7 days, unless you're in Grand Prairie, Peace River. That's where it's going to be a little cooler, a little stormier, especially as we get to Wednesday and beyond. Southern Manitoba, you too, a little bit cooler. Those highs mostly 27 to 30 degrees for much of the week, not necessarily seeing the mid to upper 30s. Not quite as dry, but still looking at variable precipitation here, probably an inch or less in most areas. We'll talk to you again next Monday. We'll have the full suite of graphics and get back into the flow of things here. That would be July 29th.